Welcome back. Now, yesterday we heard about the extremely sad passing of journalist and, of course, legendary broadcaster Charlie Bird.
Yeah, before we speak about Charlie's life and legacy, let's look at his last appearance on our show back in September when he shared how he would like to be remembered.
So how do I want to be remembered? Well, firstly, for my career in journalism, and now for my honest campaign for all of us to extend the hand of friendship to everyone in dark places. I do believe I have struck a chord, and as I have said earlier, while I'm alive, I want to continue working for that goal. Please, please look at me and extend the hand of friendship.
Gorgeous words there. Joining us to remember Charlie is fellow broadcaster Joe Duffy. We've also got Stardust campaigner Maurice McHugh and Jack Horgan Jones from the Irish Times. Thank you all so much for being here. And Joe, first of all, our deepest condolences on the passing of your dear friend. And yesterday there was a beautiful tribute on your show on Liveline. How are you doing? And that outpouring of feeling was wonderful, wasn't it?
It's incredible. Obviously, people knew the end was near for Charlie. I thought it was a bit longer because he'd gone into the hospice on last Thursday in Wicklow, that wonderful, wonderful building overlooking the sea near Britness in Wicklow. And I knew on Sunday that things were very difficult, but I didn't know that Charlie was going to pass on Monday, obviously. And then the outpouring has been, I think, even greater than people predicted, because the impact he's had, especially in the last 3 years. But again, he's been in our lives. He's been the running order of our lives for the last 4 decades in terms of news, in terms of the daily of it. No matter what part of the world that the news was in, we almost waited until Charlie got there, until the Irish people took it seriously. And we go back to Sri Lanka, Rwanda, Syria, South Africa, Haiti, back in the news again, tragically. And it was Charlie's presence, and he was uniquely Irish. I think he was a uniquely Irish broadcaster in the sense that he had this connection with people. And I don't think, Tommy and Byrne, I don't think there's any other reporter that would stand in front of the National Parliament waiting to interview the Prime Minister of the Taoiseach, and that the crowd would break into a chant, "There's only one Charlie Bird." It was so typically Irish, and it was so typically Charlie. He loved everybody. He liked being loved, which is an incredible gift, but he did love everybody, and he demonstrated that in the last few years, especially. I think over his career and over his dying, he put so much life into his dying. I think he not only changed Ireland for good, but he changed us all for the better.
You're no doubt about it, and as you just saw in that clip, just even when he was so sick about reaching out the hand of friendship as well. He was a great friend of yours. Can you give us some of your fondest memories with him?
Well, you see, he was a great friend to a lot of people. But my most outstanding memory of Charlie is 3 years ago. It's June 2021. On June the 8th, Charlie was on Liveline, and he was talking about this story, which he'd broken, about the fact that he'd broken it in the Irish Times, that in 1979, a group of ne'er-do-wells who he now knows, had blackmailed the Irish government with the line that if you don't give us £5 million, as it was those days, if you don't give us £5 million, we would introduce foot-and-mouth disease into this country. Now imagine the panic. That story stayed under wraps for nearly 40 years until Charlie, with the help of the ex-guard William McGee, broke the story. Charlie came on Liveline and spoke about that story, and there was no other issue. There was no other advice. Was a little bit hard, but I didn't take any heed because the story was so, as per usual with Charlie, so mesmeric, and he was a brilliant storyteller. And I rang him the following Saturday, which is the 12th to the 13th of June, and I said, "Charlie, thanks for that. It was a great reaction, etc." And he said, "I'm just coming out of the doctor's surgery in Ashford." And I said, "Yeah, I'd have a routine checkup." He said, "I'm having trouble with my voice. I went to my GP a couple of weeks ago. He sent me for a brain scan. I've gone in." He said, "The results of the brain scan are fine, but he wants me to have another brain scan." And he says to me, "I'm in trouble."
Yeah.
And he said, "I need to go and see a consultant, a neurologist." And that's the first. That was June 21. And then in October of that year, he formally announced that unfortunately, it was diagnosed as MNP. So I never forget that phone call. I never forget where it was. I was driving to Wexford myself. I went diverted into Ashford to have a cup of coffee with him, and I never forget that particular moment. But we used to say in our job, Tommy and Baron, we used to say when Charlie Ford was on, he was box office. He had that incredible gift of being a great reporter, a great storyteller, of being serious in his storytelling, but also able to connect with people so strongly. And all the stories, like I went down with him when he was on that trial, the libel trial, National Irish Bank, an incredible story that himself, and the first big bank scandal, which was important of things to come. And Charlie was, he was in bits. He was really, really distressed. And
you could see that he got so invested in what he did, and even in campaigning for motor neurone disease, like he just put everything into it. And from this, Maurice, I want to come to you as well, because one of those things was, of course, the Stardust fire. And listen, this was something where you and your wife, Phyllis, sadly lost your daughter, Caroline.
That's right.
But Charlie, he was first on the scene there. But what was it? How did he help you and the other families?
Well, in 1981, Charlie arrived at the Stardust. He got a phone call, as he said his own story was that he got a phone call to get your arse over there, Tane, there's a fire over there in the disco. He said he didn't even know where it was. But he headed off anyway, and he eventually got there. He passed by the morgue on Store Street, and he could see all the arms and the activity that was going on, and eventually arrived at the Stardust site. And I think, personally, that he was traumatised by what went on there. Although he said, and he did this broadcast from there about the horrendous fire that went on in the place, I think he also saw what the fire brigade were doing at the time. They were taking the remains of the burnt bodies out and taking them, and Charlie saw all this. And from that day in 1981, Charlie stood behind us in our campaign for truth and justice. And no matter where we went, Charlie was behind us. When we got down in the dumps and think we weren't getting anywhere, we were fighting against a government, ordinary people from the north side. But for some reason or other, we were sort of a non-entity, if you like, from the north side, because we're from the Coolock area like that. Like Joe Duffy, he was from Ballyfermot, you know, and Ballyfermot had a reputation as well for all sorts of unpopular behaviour and all that unsocial behaviour. But Charlie, no matter where we went, Charlie was there behind us. We got invited up to Derry for the Bloody Sunday Trust, and Charlie drove all the way from Wicklow right up to Bunny, and he sat there, and he was very concerned about the families of the Stardust, because he felt that we weren't going to get on top, we weren't going to beat the government. But we persevered, and with Charlie's help behind us, you know, he was a staunch supporter. And
you've gotten to an inquiry now. It's currently going on.
It's gone into the inquiry now, which has gone on now since last March. It'll be a year now at the end of this month. So it's at the stage now at the inquest that the coroner now has to make a submission to the jury, right? And then she'll send the jury off to deliberate and come back with a verdict. What the verdict? There's 4 items or 3 items on the verdict. But the verdict can be one is unlawful killing. The second one is accidental death. The third one is misadventure, and another one's the narrative. And they're the 4 verdicts that they can come to.
Around this, with Charlie, like, it touched him. Like, he covered so many incredible stories, but he knew each member's name. He was emotionally invested in this, and that must be special to have a special piece in your heart that he kept giving you guys the platform to get to where you are.
He did indeed, and he knew everybody by name, all of the families, especially the committee. You would know all the committee. He was very fond of Chrissy Keegan, who started up the Stardust Victims Association, and he's a supporter very, very much, you know. And he actually told Chrissy once said that he was getting married again. She couldn't believe it, you know.
To his lovely,
Yeah.
his fabulous wife Claire, and of course Tiger was always here with him as well, and his gorgeous children. And Jack, I think, you know, as someone who's in your profession, Charlie Bird is a legend of the game. I think there's so many things that we could talk about. One of them, I think, is, I was just watching it again last night, that time that he was in the US and David Drum from Anglo was there, and he's bending down, looking through the letterbox, going, David, why won't you talk to us? The people of Ireland want to talk to you. He was tenacious in what he did.
Dogged and all those words that I suppose he'd use to sum up a journalist, a hack's hack. I think that what he had above all things was, you know, that will to stay with the story and to do perhaps the kind of unglamorous things, the shoe leather journalism, to go up and do the door knock and shout through the letterbox at David Drum. And I think that what kind of brings all that together and what makes good journalists into great journalists is when they're fascinated by their work and by their stories. And when they become, you know, professionally impartial, but personally invested in a way that just holds their interest. And, you know, we see that with how he covered the Stardust story back in 1981 and stuck with it for 40 years. But we see it in I think the quality of his work across, you know, the whole body of his career. You know, you could go from the Stardust through the NIB scandal in the 1990s, the fact that he was one of the primary interlocutors for the provisional IRA during the peace
from
process
1993,
from 1993, you know, and he was just synonymous with breaking story after story. We heard Joe saying even well into retirement he was breaking stories in the Irish Times and then going on Liveline to discuss them. We spoke about David Drum, but he was also obviously the DC correspondent for RTE. He covered the Indian Ocean tsunami, the earthquake in Haiti. So I mean, it's an incredible list of scoops and stories that I think were born of both his professional approach, but also the overlap and the way his
had a way
personal interest
to touch the heart on the people as well. That, you know, like Joe mentioned, the crowd. There was a love. There was a love of him, and he will leave an incredible legacy. And I think we all just send our condolences to Claire, to the Tiger, who was such a part of the family as well.
Gorgeous, Orlanes as well, of course, his children. And if anyone there's an amazing podcast on Stardust. It's done by the Journal, and Maurice involved, Charlie's involved. It's absolutely fantastic to let people know your story. And Maurice, we hope to talk to you again soon. When you feel like you've gotten the justice that you deserve. We'd like to thank you all for being here. Maurice McHugh, Joe Duffy, for joining us today. We know that you'll be chatting again about Charlie a little bit later on, and our sincere condolences to you and all your colleagues in RT. And Jack Horgan Jones is staying with us. We'll be back with you on Ireland.